Alright, so we got that saved. Now I'm just going to kind of smear in some color here. So this will become foreground grass. Okay. Just to have an idea, and then come down here on this grass, and we're going to put just a few of these spots of color here and there too. Changing the brush size, because that'll give it a feel of being further away. Okay. So that gives us some ideas here. Now, one of the other things I want to do is I want to add in some rocks. So we're going to add those in, and I think I'm going to put those on another layer. Go back to my stuff here. So let's maybe put one here. Put some up in here. These are just random blobs. Something like that. So then let's smear in some color. Something like that. All right. I'm thinking through here, go with tree trunks. Something like that. So that way we've got a buildup of... I'm just going to sprinkle this color around on some of these rocks. Like so. Alright, so we're going to bring some of these out, some of these greens, so that it'll come out kind of across like this. And that's going to push those back. Okay. So we've got a good amount of our underpainting here. Okay. The other thing we'll need to do is we'll work on this here and figure out what's going to be reflecting in this water part. But don't have to worry about it right now, unless you just, you need to see it to do it. So let's kind of go back down in our layers and start filling in some of the areas here with finishing out the clouds. Move over to some of the mountains. Then we'll come into some of these trees. Then we'll come into these and then start coming into these guys here. All right, so a little bit of layer management again. So we'll do rocks. Excuse me. Foreground grass. Excuse me. All right, so drop back down to our mountains here. We can go back to our stencils, grab our mountain brush here, mountain stencil I mean, turn off lock size ratio, kind of squish it around a little bit. Now if you want to go as kind of a Studio Ghibli kind of a look or that kind of stuff, you don't want to put a whole lot of texture here. You'd have more of these big swaths of color. Scrub some of this in. It's going to give us some kind of interesting looks. This is some of that same color that we've already used. Just kind of soften this color down a little bit. Just 4 to kind of blend it around. Take it the other direction a little bit. So with this, blending it around, you can really take that, add that texture, and then come back over it, push it around to get that even more of that texture. This takes a little longer than using the stencils, but it can give you some more interesting effects as well to kind of combine the two. And not to mention interesting colors. Have this kind of fade down, so maybe back here there's, you know, vegetation kind of creeping its way up the mountain. And just random kind of shaking back and forth. Turn off the preserve transparency. So I want to get rid of some of this sharp edge here. And then as you start blending these around, grab colors, change the sizes. Like so. And think about where your light's going to be kind of bouncing across. You know, where's it going to have a cavern or a little fold in the rock or whatever. Grab a little bit darker color. Right. And then, like I said before, kind of keep moving. You can grab the stencil. Notice I switched to 4, so I keep kind of going back and forth on the brushes, as far as 1, 2, 4. And so the more details and breaking of the paint that you have, the more it's going to pull it closer to you. Okay, so if you want this to look really far off, don't add as much break in the paint. Switch over to the eraser. Kind of clean up the edges here a little bit. Something like that. Okay. Something like that. Now let's lock the transparency again. I'm going to grab a little bit of this green here. I'm going to go over to airbrush. I'm going to lower the opacity. I'm just going to kind of put some of this in here. A little of this other green on top. And switch back. Maybe something like this paper brush. Go with 4. And just kind of blend this in a little bit. We can even take, like this other one, this old round brush. Bring it up and down. So get some nice little kind of foothills back here. And this is just kind of playing back and forth on the texture. And just kind of keep going over it back and forth. You can get the feel and the look that you want. We can soften it. Something like that. So that adds a little bit of interest, a little bit of something else there. So see how that's just going to add some, some interest to it. You can push it back down and push it around as much as you want. Let's jump over to the clouds a little bit. I want to bring this color down a little bit. So I'm going to go to here and we'll put it on 4. That kind of gets those colors closer. Now we can come to the mountain, turn that off, and just kind of softly blend that. Take away that hard edge. And just by putting in some squiggles here and there, we now have even more mountains off in the distance. Okay. All right, so that gives us that. And now we can work on these trees and the grass. All right, so I turned on the Protect Transparency. I'm going to grab a little bit of this color. Throw this in here a little bit. Put it on 4. Bring up the size and just kind of up and down. Something like this. And then we can take some of the other stencils. So we can just kind of keep throwing in some stuff here. I'm going to turn off the protect transparency. I'm going to go over here to this other one. I'm going to grab my bush brush right there. Grab some of this different color. And then just using these other ones as kind of a reference point. Just kind of quickly throw in some trees. We don't even need a whole lot of detail on these, just something to kind of break it up. And then switch to 4 and kind of blend it in a little bit so it's a little softer. You could even add a little bit of this other color to it if you wanted to. Again, switch to 4, kind of blend it in. Something like that. And then as we get closer to these trees, we can just kind of start bringing it on this layer. And then 4. Something like that. And then I'll start transitioning them across into the next layer, like so. So that kind of brings those together. Now if you want to set some more scale here, you could take something like this. I'm just grabbing a random brush. Just kind of blend it in. Erase some of it, kind of push it back. Just like that. And that lays in some trees for a little bit of perspective as far as atmospheric and size. Alright. So now we can switch to here. Let's go to the foreground. So we got these tree brushes. So we can just kind of add in some leaves. And this is where you need to kind of figure out, okay, what kind of trees am I putting in? These right here I kind of did, like fir trees and that kind of stuff. But it doesn't mean I have to stick with that. I can always switch back and forth and kind of change the profile. Like so. You just kind of keep pushing it around here and there. And the important thing here is just leave some dark spaces. Occasionally go back to the dark. Like so. This lets you build out some quick trees. Drop a few here and there. Break up that darker color. Okay. So now very quickly, we've got limbs and you can, depends on how impressionistic you want this. I mean, do you want to go in? Because if you look on these, like if you zoom in, there's limbs that are, not really connecting to anything. Totally up to you if you want to go and connect them. If you do, then just switch to something like the grainy pen or something like that. And then you can just, kind of come in and flesh it around a little bit. But, if there's just random leaves that are out here, doesn't really matter. You can have leaves that are completely floating, just like that. From a distance, looks perfectly fine. Okay. So this is just how do you want to flesh it out, You can use other brushes, like even the mountain knife, to really kind of get some different looks. Or like if you were trying to lay in some spots in here that, just by randomly throwing it in there, then come back over it with the leaf brush like so. But the key is don't kill all your darks. That's why I was saying go back and forth between the dark and the light and just kind of reselect it and give yourself some interest. Now if you've got it here and you want to come in and put some highlights, you can definitely select like this green and just kind of selectively throw that in there. Then switch to 4 and just kind of smear it around. Again, don't kill all your black. But that just gives some interest. And if you keep building this up, you'll get more and more realistic looking trees. Okay. But again, like I've said for all of these, I don't want to take up all the time developing these super realistic looking paintings like I do with my other professional paintings, where I spend like 10 hours on them. This is just trying to show you some of the techniques that you can use as the foundation and the building block to build up to that. All right, so we've kind of got those there. So let's go back to the grass here. Now on this one, I gotta remember where the brush is that I'm looking for. Give me a second. The grainy knives work good. Some of these grunge work good. Filberts work really good too. Hairy is what I was looking for. So if we're on here, this hairy brush can lay in some really cool looking grass quickly. The key to this is just kind of keep selecting different areas. And some of this, you may realize that, okay, I need this to be on top of this layer. If that's the case, just come up to the top, make a new layer, paint it like so. But again, at this distance, you're not going to see all the blades of grass. Okay. I want to add a little bit more green to this. So I'm going to select here, kind of come down. Like this. And 4. So what I'm doing is I'm dulling down some of this grass to kind of find the color that I want. And then I can just blend it around. So just laying this in and blending in some of the colors, kind of going up and down here and there to kind of get the feeling that it's vertical. Because again, you're not going to see every blade of grass. You'll see more of that on this layer, not this one. All right. So now I can come up to these rocks right here. And staying on 4, I can soften the bottom of these rocks, which will kind of seat them in there. Like so. Something like that. I'm leaving one side untouched. The top. And just kind of blending in the bottom. All right. That's going to start seeding those down in there. So let's make a layer on top of this. And let's right click and make that a clipping mask to these rocks. Now I want to do, grab some of this color from back here. I'm just going to kind of smear it in along with some of this darker color here. Mix them together a little bit. And if I want, I can grab another one of the rock stencils. Now this one also works good if we go to the smooth. We can add in some really nice effects. And the nice thing with clipping mask, I can be really loose. Just kind of throw it on these. One of the great things about a clipping mask. Oops, grab the green, not what I meant. And let's say, for example, I grab this paper one and see how I can just kind of quickly throw in some texture like that. You can get kind of a granite look. And then when I've got it where I want it, I can just switch over to something like this grainy knife. Bring the size down, go to 4. Just kind of quickly come in. So it's a great way to let yourself play around with the shapes and the textures and get kind of that feel that you want. Alright, so let's switch over to these trunks. Let's give them a bit of a key thing to remember with trees, they're just cylinders. You want this front piece to be not have any like overspray and softness like this. The back one can, because you can let it fade in, but the front you really want it to have more of a crisp edge. And I've got a wood brush right here. So if I want to make some streaky wood, it's very subtle. It builds up kind of as you do it. But you can even switch it to 4. You get kind of that barky look. And so we can have these edges that just kind of fade off into nothing. Like so. These are, you can just kind of smudge these around. You can build in as much texture or as little as you want. And there are some bark brushes. That you can use. So the key to these is just to kind of turn so that it follows the growth of the tree. Okay, so now that we've got those there, let's put another layer over top of these. Let's select this color, and then let's go back to our tree brush and kind of seat some of that. Push those back in there. And then we can take, like maybe this oily round, grab a little of this color, and just kind of put, maybe a few spots here and there. Just like so. Okay, so you can see how that kind of pushes it back. And again, just keep playing back and forth with it to get it to the level that you want. All right, let me save this real quick.